He was born in Lansing, Michigan on January 24th, 1970, and grew up in Tustin, California. He attended Foothill High School in North Tustin, California, and later attended Fulton College before going to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in Pasadena, California, with fellow actor Paul Rudd. He also attended Circle in the Square Theater School in New York City. After high school, he became the co-host of a short-lived TV show titled Skate TV, before he was hired as an extra in Ghoulies 3, Ghoulies Go to College. In 1994, he was cast in the John Waters black comedy Serial Mom. In 1995, he was cast in 5 films, including Hackers, a film about a group of high school students who thwart a multi-million-dollar corporation extortion conspiracy. Then in 1996, he would go on to one of his most iconic roles as Stu Matcher in the horror film Scream. This role would only be overtaken in popularity as his turn as Norval Shaggy Rogers in the 2002 live-action Scooby-Doo. He later reprised that role in the 2004 sequel Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. When Casey Kasem retired from voicing Norval Shaggy Rogers in 2009, this actor was chosen to take over and voice Shaggy in 3 subsequent animated series, Mystery Incorporated, Be Cool Scooby-Doo, and Scooby-Doo Guess Who, as well as every animated direct-to-video film since Scooby-Doo Abracadabra Doo. Now iconically known as a killer teen and a teen who unmasked the villain, Matthew Lillard would continue to have a long career. But have all his movie roles made him a phenom or a flop? Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Go ahead, relax, take your shoes off. And if this is your first time here, don't forget you took your shoes off before you leave. Welcome to episode 3 of Phenom or Flop, the show where we take the critical and audience scores from an actor's filmography, smash them together and see if according to the Cindy metric, shout out to Cindy, if that actor is a phenom or flop. As the Cindy metric states, an actor must be starring in or highly billed in the movie for it to count towards the actor's numbers for their filmography. This is according to Wikipedia, IMDb, or Rotten Tomatoes. Once we narrow down the movies, then we get the average score for both the critics and the audience scores according to Rotten Tomatoes. So, for Matthew Lillard, out of the 87 movies that were accredited to him, only 65 of those fit the Cindy metric. Shout out to Cindy. So then the 65 movies that we'll be using today are Serial Mom, Animal Room, Made Love, Hackers, Tarantula, Scream, The Curve, Senseless, Telling You, Without Limits, SLC Punk, Spanish Judges, She's All That, Wing Commander, Dish Dogs, Finder's Fee, Summer Catch, 13 Ghosts, Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, Wicker Park, Without a Paddle, Karos the Prophecy, The Groomsman, What Love Is, One of Our Own, Karos the Revolution, Spooner, Messages Deleted, Extreme Movie, Scooby-Doo Abracadabra Doo, Scooby-Doo Camp Scare, Scooby-Doo The Legend of the Phantasaur, From the Head, The Pool Boys, Scooby-Doo The Music of the Vampire, Home Run Showdown, Trouble with the Curve, Big Top Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo Mask of the Blue Falcon, Scooby-Doo Adventures The Mystery Map, Return to Nim's Island, Scooby-Doo Stage Fright, The Naughty List, Match, Scooby-Doo WrestleMania Mystery, Scooby-Doo Franken-Creepy, Under Wraps, Scooby-Doo Moon Monster Madness, Scooby-Doo Kiss Rock and Roll Mystery, Scooby-Doo and Kiss Rock and Roll Mystery, Lego Scooby-Doo Haunted Hollywood, Scooby-Doo and WWE Curse of the Speed Demon, Scooby-Doo Shaggy Showdown, Lego Scooby-Doo Blowout Beach Bash, Scooby-Doo and Batman the Brave and the Bold, Scooby-Doo and Batman the Brave and the Bold, Scooby-Doo and the Gourmet Ghost, Scooby-Doo and the Curse of the 13th Ghost, Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island, Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo and the Sword of Scoob, Scooby-Doo and the Sword of the Scoob, He's All That. Straight Out of Nowhere, Scooby-Doo meets Courage the Cowardly Dog. Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo and Crypto 2, and Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, I do really quickly want to mention that Matthew Lillard does have another movie releasing later this year in 2024 called Life of Chuck. This will be an adaptation of Stephen King's novella. Novella means a short novel in German, or French, or maybe Latin, something like that. From the collection called If It Bleeds. This unfortunately means this doesn't make it eligible for the Cindy metric, mainly because it's not out. Also not being counted is Ghoulies 3, Ghoulies Go to College, which is credited to him on Wikipedia but not on Rotten Tomatoes due to the small role he has in it. I mention it though not only to make you aware of his first role as well as this franchise as a whole, but also to mention it has no critic score and the audience only has given it a 22%, so it's probably better that it's not there. So now let's look at the list of movies and see what the top 5 best and worst for both scores were. For the critics, the top 5 movies were, with an 81%, Scream. This is a 1996 American slasher film that was directed by Wes Craven and is set in the fictional town of Woodsboro, California. Scream's plot follows high school student Sydney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell, and her friends, who are on the anniversary of her mother's murder, become the targets of a costume serial killer known as Ghostface. At 80% is From the Head, a 2011 American drama film written and directed by George Griffith. Labeled as a micro-budget indie, this movie focuses on the men and women who populate a strip club and the effect they have on the psyche of a resident bathroom attendant as they give him tips and secrets. Next with a 79% is Without Limits, a 1998 American biographical sports film written and directed by Robert Towne that follows the record-breaking distance runner Steve Prefontaine and his relationship with coach Bill Bowerman, who later co-founded Nike. Then, with a 76% is Match. It depicts a married couple, Mike and Lisa, talking with a renowned dance instructor, Toby, about his experience in the 1960s New York dance scene that becomes increasingly personal as Mike suspects Toby is his father. Lastly, with a 63% is Serial Mom, a 1994 American satirical slasher that is directed and written by John Waters. It stars Kathleen Turner as the title character, Sam Waterston as her husband, and Ricky Lake and Matthew Lillard as her children. Catherine is secretly a serial killer who kills people over trivial slights and offenses. So those were the top 5 scores for the critics. Now let's take a look at the top 5 movies for the audiences. With an 81% is Scooby-Doo and Batman, the Brave and the Bold. This film involves Scooby-Doo and his friends teaming up with Batman and other DC superheroes in order to defeat a new supervillain while villains from both of their worlds unite to wreak havoc in Gotham City. At 91% again is Without Limits. With 89% is SLC Punk, a 1998 American comedy drama that was written and directed by James Merendio. The film was based on Merendio's experience growing up in Salt Lake City and is not autobiographical, though Merendio said that many characters are based on people he knew. With an 86%, we have Five Nights at Freddy's. This is a 2023 American supernatural horror movie based on the video game series of the same name, and follows a troubled man who becomes a security guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, where he discovers that animatronic mascots are possessed with the souls of the murdered children. Finally, we have again with an 83%, From the Head. Now that we've looked at what his highest rated movies are, let's take a look at what the lowest rated were, starting with the critics. With a 14%, we have Without a Paddle. This is a 2004 American adventure comedy that we see following the death of their friend Billy. Tom, Jerry, and Dan go camping in his memory to a campsite that has a special significance. Billy believed that famous airplane hijacker D.B. Cooper hid money in the area, and his friends aim to find it. Unfortunately, they are not prepared for that adventure. Next, with a 10%, is Wing Commander. This is a 1999 science fiction film that was loosely based on the video game series of the same name. In the year 2654, the interstellar war rages on between Team Confederation in the Kilrathi Empire. The cat-like Kilrathi seek to end the human race, and a space pilot with a coded message, his sidekick, and their superior must fight those attacking aliens. This is a special movie to watch if you're a fan of Matthew Lillard, because not only is it his first time being in a video game movie, but it's also the first time he paired up with frequent collaborator Freddie Prinze Jr. Next up, coming in with an 8% is Summer Catch. This is a 2001 American romantic comedy film directed by Michael Tolan. It's a coming-of-age romantic comedy set against the backdrop of a Cape Cod baseball league. Local boy Ryan Dune is now the pitcher of Boston College, who meets Tenley Parrish, the daughter of a wealthy couple who summer in the Cape. Ryan and Tenley fall in love, much to the chagrin of their families, all while Ryan clings to the one last hope of being discovered and signed to a pro baseball contract. Next, with a 6%, is Senseless. This is a 1998 American buddy science fiction film directed by Penelope Seifriss. This is a 1998 buddy comedy science fiction film directed by Penelope Seifriss. This movie follows perpetually poor Darrow, who is destined to lose his Wall Street job to a wealthy snob until Darrow volunteers for a high-paying scientific experiment that gives him superhuman senses. But when the side effects start, he finds his chances of success sabotaged by attacks of sensory overload. And finally, with a rare 0%, we have Dead Man's Curve. This movie is also known as The Curve, and it follows Matthew Lillard and Michael Vartan as Tim and Chris, who, after hearing of a school policy granting anyone whose roommate commits suicide an automatic 4.0 GPA, plot to kill their roommate Rand and make it look like a suicide. After succeeding, guilt and mistrust fester, causing issues in Chris's relationship with his girlfriend Emma and the roommates' futures. For the worst 5 movies according to the audience scores, we start at 26% again with Wing Commander. Then again with a 26% we have The Animal Room. This is a 1995 American thriller directed, produced, and written by Craig Singer that stars Neil Patrick Harris as a bullied drug-using teenager and Matthew Lillard as the bully who loves to torment him. And the third worst movie is Message Deleted at 24%. A 2009 Canadian horror thriller film where a screenwriting teacher is forced to live out the plot of a screenplay he stole from an anonymous character who is now seeking revenge. Coming in at the second worst of the audience scores is He's All That with a 22%. This is a 2021 American teen romantic comedy film that is a gender-swapped remake of the 1999 film She's All That also starred Matthew Lillard. Coming in at the lowest movie scored by audiences is Extreme Movie with an 18%. Extreme Movie, also known formally as Parental Guidance Suggested, aka Hot Dogs and Donuts, an Extreme Movie in Australia, is a satirical comedy film from 2008, composed of sketches about teen sex. Segments of the movie were co-written by Saturday Night Live performers Will Forte and Andy Samberg, as well as writers Akiva Schaffer, Jorma Taccone, Phil Lord, and Chris Miller. Matthew Lillard's sex advice was intercut within every couple segments. Before we move on and talk about some more specifics of his movies, I wanted to take a moment and tell you my top 5 Matthew Lillard movies. As you know, I am a fan of movies, so I always want to say, yes, I'm taking a critical approach to how these are scored, but I want to let you know I am still a fan of these actors. So, starting at number 5, it's Five Nights at Freddy's. I wasn't a fan of the video game, but I did still enjoy the movie, and it gave me quite a scare, as I assume the video game would as well. Number 4 is Scream. Now, this is a movie that I will let you know that I knew the twist of before going in, just because of how late in my life I watched it. However, I still don't think it was ruined for me. Seeing the deception and the way that everything played out in the end, and seeing how they were able to get away with it, still made it a very interesting and fun movie to watch. At number 3 is Scooby-Doo and Kiss the Rock and Roll Mystery. This isn't nostalgic for me, but I just love that they played into the idea of Kiss being interdimensional beings from Kysteria and helped protect Earth from the Crimson Witch. Number 2 on my list is the first live-action Scooby-Doo movie. It's a very, very great movie for me because I watched it a lot on VHS as a kid, and it just gave me that same sense of feeling that I did from the Scooby-Doo cartoons I would watch at the same time. Which leaves you no surprise that my number 1 favorite movie from Matthew Lillard would be Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. As I said, I owned this one on VHS as well, and it was so much fun to watch because I think the characters just got to be even sillier than they were in the first one, as well as you have the silliness that comes from the monsters and them being real-life cartoon characters. So as we're taking a look at Matthew Lillard's career, I think it's important to tell you that most of the movies in his filmography didn't have scores from critics. Out of the 65 movies that we used according to the Cindy metric, shout out to Cindy, only 25 of them have officially had scores on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics. If you're not aware, Rotten Tomatoes gives a score to the movies based on the percentage of positive reviews the movies received in total. For example, the movie Finder's Fee, which interestingly enough was written by and directed by Jeff Probst, yes, the host of The Survivor, that Jeff Probst, has a score of 60% from 5 reviews, which we see 3 of the 5 being positive, giving us that 60%. So when it comes to the 40 movies that didn't have critics' scores, they either had to have 0 reviews or less than 5 required. All of this though brings us back to the main question of the video. Is Matthew Lillard a phenom or a flop? When it comes to the critic scores, we have 2 different scores to look at. Adding all of our numbers together, we get the total of 597. Dividing that by the 65 that we have in the entire Cindy metric, and it gives us an average score rounded up to 9%. However, if we only use the 25 movies that have a score, it comes out to 24%. For audiences, the total is 3,575. Dividing that by 65 gives us an average of 55%. And for the 62 that have scored films, the average is going to be 58. I then added these 2 pairs of numbers together for the final scores of either 32% or 41%. This unfortunately is under the 60% we look for on this show to match the way the numbers are gathered, making him a flop. In the end, over Matthew Lillard's 33-year-long career, he has been able to create new and take over for so many incredible characters over that time. This has made him a strong favorite of his fans and has showed him to not just work on movies he's passionate about, like his directorial debut of Fat Kid Rules the World, but also many guest spots on TV over the years. This all being said, even though the numbers say he's a flop, I'm still a great fan of Matthew Lillard, and I would love to hear which of his movies you enjoy in the comments down below. You can also leave suggestions for which actor you'd like me to take a look at next, and don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to see if your favorite actor is next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.